So let me introduce Sameer Nigam. So Sameer Nigam's journey is an very, very different journey. So Sameer is an alumnus of IIT Kanpur, and I'm Ahmedabad. And with great exposure in working in Indian MNCs like TCS as well as foreign MNCs like Genpact. And Sameer is a story like how a small town boy makes it big on the employee side also and as an employer side also. So Sameer is a great story from turning an employee to an employer at a juncture, like many things that we are in comfort of our own working and with our fixed jobs and getting an opportunity to travel abroad, having dollar salary also, but he forgot everything and started his own venture. So Sameer, please tell us about your journey from your student days then to your work life.
When you say student days, I'll take you back to 90s, mid 90s. That's when I graduated, did my BTech Mechanical Engineering.
Yeah.
And that was from a college which is called HBTI. Then it was called HBTI. Now it is called HBTU. Then I went to IIT Kanpur, did Masters in Laser Technology. And then went to TCS and spent there quite some time in US and in UK. And then around 2004, then I decided to do MBA. Then came back to India and joined IIM Ahmedabad for 2 years then. So 2004 to 2006. So that has been the part where, I was, you can call it education journey till that time. And after that, then I stayed in India for some time and then started the company just, let's say about maybe 1.5 years after working with Genpact. So the company was started in 2008 and that has been my journey actually.
So what prompted you to come to the, let's say, the startup area, your own area? What was the moment when you took decisions?
So, yeah, so 2005, I started a consulting company at IIM Ahmedabad, joining hands with two of my friends there. And that was a time when a lot of, opportunities were being discussed in the campus and there was quite a enthusiasm around it. There was a very instrumental professor there. He's still very iconic person, very well known in the industry,
Yeah.
Dr. Hunt. And I was his student, and most of his students ended up doing something in entrepreneurship only. So he used to call active entrepreneurs who were his past students into the class, very exciting. In a way, he sort of allowed us to see entrepreneurship very differently, which meant that it looked like as a career option, which did not look as, not even as glorified, nor very difficult either. It looked like something that you can plan out and do. So then, therefore, that was a seeding time, I'll say. But but when I started it, then I had actually worked for Genpact for 1.5 years. And it looked like a good decision to take. However, 2008, if you remember, that is known for a lot of things which were not right. The time was when Lehman collapsed and a lot of things were going wrong. But the fact is that the thought in my mind was very clear by then that, this is something that I wanted to do because it looked a little more challenging than working on a job. And a little more freedom of expressing yourself and being able to create something which is which you can shape in your own way. While you're working for large corporates, you end up doing that as well.
Right.
Denying the fact that that's also a great opportunity, what TCS, what Genpact gave.
Yeah. Sameer, how old were you then when you became an entrepreneur? Because we want to break that myth that entrepreneurship can be started at only at certain age.
That's an interesting thing. If I tell you, I just turned maybe 32 when I went to IIM Ahmedabad. So 32 to 34.
Yeah.
And then maybe around 36 I started it.
Oh, that's great.
You see, now that thing about age is actually quite a limiting factor in people's mind.
Yeah.
You cannot choose that. And that's what my boss at TCS used to tell me, and he's a big influencer in my decision also. Because, like I told you, before I went to IMA, I was in UK, and at that time there was this person, Mr. Jayant Krishna, who was very inspiring person. And so you see, he used to give out real good examples how you can sort of do it. You can actually take charge of situations, whether you're working in an organization or you start your own. And when I see this situation, if I look at Ria, for example, if she wants to start a business and if she is clear, then there's no reason to delay it. But imagine you are at a certain age where you are, and you think that you have a certain idea and you want to try it out. Where you should do that then. So age happens naturally. You're not controlling it.
Correct.
But you know what kind of decisions you take. You can take it all the time.
True.
People talk about limitations in a certain age. Those things are mostly a myth. I can talk more about it if you ask me later.
How has the business model of Stratbeans evolved with time? You started way back in 2008 or 9, right?
That's one of the most interesting things. Even if I look at it right now, the model has really evolved a lot. Even in the name, if you see, my company is called Stratbeans Consulting. The reason is that we, at the time when I started it, we were thinking about something called carbon consulting, and it was pretty much a very good thing to do at that time. A little bit of management consulting also we were doing at that time. Now the name remains, but the company is really transformed into what is a IT products organization. One thing led to the other, and it pivoted to where it is. So yes, I mean, there have been a lot of changes. If you sort of ask me to break it down, I can tell you what were the major things. But from a consulting company, which is pure play service, to an IT products company, which is an IP based company, the change has been tremendous. Also, the number of employees have grown up. In a consulting company, there were not many employees. We have about 130 employees now, and that's a very different picture. So yes, there's been a lot of transformation in the business model.
Samir, if you can just tell more about like Stratbeans product and industry domain and the ecosystem as an all.
So the ecosystem, if you had to define it, you will call it HR tech. You will call it those technologies. Now, in this ecosystem, what happens is that you will find large corporates. You will find most of the large corporates are our customers. So they are trying to get some competitive edge while they have a large spread into different geographies. That's a typical profile. They may have more than 2,000 employees. That kind of companies are our target. Industry is not really really important for us. We are actually present in almost all the industries. In some industries, we may be little less. In some, we may be more. So there is BFSI, there are banks, there are insurance companies, and there are companies which are big names in manufacturing. There are companies which are in hospitality, and you keep asking, and then there are more and more industries keep adding. The problem that we solve is simple. The problem is that how do you upskill an employee, and you sort of match it with the kind of competencies that organization requires, and how do you do that fast? So for that, we have got a division which is called which is our products division. So then we've got things called learning management systems there. Various learning management systems, something that you can play on a mobile phone, something which you can customize and totally embed into an organization. If I give you a picture there, then one of the biggest automobile manufacturer, they have more than 50 people logging onto our system and sort of learning about how do they sell the cars to how do they service them. That's part of the ecosystem. The other ecosystem, which is very important in our case, is that we are also very tightly linked to a lot of other players who are also in the ecosystem. So there's a company called Articulate, who are great partners, and they are based out of New York. and we supply their technology into India, and that's a very successful business. We have about 90,000 customers globally
Okay.
who are using technology. So on one hand, we have got such partners, and there's another partner which is called Skillsoft, and through them we have about 45,000 videos and a lot of courses which are pre-built courses that you can
Okay.
put on the LM.
Right.
Then a lot of our employees are into our service division. That
Okay.
division about creating very uh, interactive, appealing, aesthetic video content. There are about 65 people doing that. They are designers, they are instruction designers, so they can sort of understand what you're trying to say, and
Yeah.
they can say it with videos. So that's their
Right.
expertise.
Okay.
They, in a sense, they create a small movies, if you would,
Okay.
and all of it comes together when you give a great learning experience to the employees,
Uh,
and to top managers you give a heat chart. You show them that what, minute by minute, how they are going close to their strategic objective of a certain competency, a
right.
certain part. So that's the ecosystem, and that's the kind of offering we work with.
Okay. So, I mean, how did you zero down on this particular domain when you were on the verge of starting your entrepreneur
A
journey?
lot of things come in front of you, and you peck at it, and the situation throws something at you. So, like I said, I started a consulting company,
Yeah.
and at that point, I also partnered with an organization which was creating video content, and I knew them from Genpact,
Right.
and they were very nice people. They were really great people, and there's a person called Gopal. He was very friendly and very helpful. So he told me that while you are doing your own thing, why don't you start sort of putting this product also in your portfolio? Uh, Maybe something worked well, and that product through my organization became a de facto standard in
Hmm.
all the business process outsourcing companies. If you remember 2008, that was very hot business process outsourcing.
True.
So when that happened, definitely, what, when you are sort of working out of your home and you're trying to figure things out, whatever pays your bill uh, catches your attention. So that way, I sort of started looking at this area quite keenly, and
Yeah.
therefore that became a natural choice. But then, there's a long journey afterwards.
Yeah.
A lot of leaders joined in the organization, and they sort of left something
Hmm.
to what the organization is today, and they sort of uh, optimized our business model to what it is today.
Hmm.
So that is how the change happened.
How are you looking at the e-learning market, considering the two situations, one before the pandemic and the other after the pandemic? Like, what are your views on the growth of the industry?
My inputs on this field are based on two things. One is that I look at my order book, that gives me an indication. The kind of customer interest that I see, that gives me some indication. Then I also, some other inquiries that come to us for partnerships or for investors. That gives us an indication that looks like post-COVID, people are probably finding this area very attractive. And, from the behavioral side, if you see, the people who you try to train, either they are, even if they are employees or even if they are small kids, the readiness was already there, isn't it? I mean, people consume a lot of content on videos anyways, and they've got all kind of devices. And it's really not dependent also on any demographics, because you see somebody who's even just class fourth is also enjoying a lot of content, maybe for fun, on his mobile phone. So that was already there. And there's a joke going around in this industry which says that, who uh, who really triggered this transformation or digital transformation of learning in your organization? Which C-level executive was that? And people say it's COVID. So you have to see this. Suddenly that sometimes finding it otherwise impossible to train people, because you can't send them around. And so I'm pretty hopeful about this. It seems that it has become a sunrise sector right now. Before COVID, if you spoke to an investor, many times they'll be very calculated unless they were strategic investors and they knew about this industry.
Hmm.
So there's one of those run-of-the-mill areas. I like to maybe invest on something. What do you call it? Maybe, maybe something to do with some kind of AI systems or some kind of specific blockchain system, something fancy. But now fancy is gone. Something which is practical is and pragmatic is very much in.
True.
All the colleges suddenly have become our customers as well. They were not our customers yet. We
Right.
never went to. But
Correct.
now because they're using us in such a way, they are making advance payments and all that. So we're saying, okay, now we go with you as well.
Huh.
So buyers and sellers are really coming together. So I'm pretty optimistic about it and continue now. This is a permanent shift now. Otherwise, we could have met at some place outside, and mostly people used to interact that way. So
Right.
even education, it's not only e-learning. People are training. A lot of video conferences are happening through which
Very true.
large MBA schools are conducting classes. So
So Stratbeans has served many companies, right? So how do you provide and structure services and products for these different industries?
any customer that comes to us, for you will probably think, how do we know the subject matter of that industry? So, so we really don't know. We don't know subject matter of that industry that well. We may have some, let's say, if you talk about banking and finance, and imagine you are a bank and you're talking to us, we may have a business analyst who has some idea of banking and finance. So we can put him on the team. But that real expertise actually is in the people of that organization whom we are working for. So we talk to their trainers, we collect a lot of information which is already there, then we sort of flesh it out and clean it up. If I give you an example of, let's say, if you are a QSR chain, if you are somebody who's delivering pizza very fast, quickly outside in 30 minutes or less, so you will have a method that you know about pizza making and delivery. So when we go there and we have to teach you that, then we'll actually ask you only, and we'll just present it well, and we'll sort of use some techniques which are behavioral, psychological, so that people who end up reading it, they enjoy it and they sort of therefore retain it fast. Our expertise is that aspect. Our expertise is to sort of bring it out and make it stay to the employees. We'll give them some kind of simulator sometimes to sort of practice it in such a way that when they are a cashier, you will feel that this looks like the same chain and the same name where I went in Europe also, and I'm getting the same experience. So our role is to bring it out in the kind of retention of knowledge that is there. But our role is not to tell that organization that, you know what, this is how you bake your pizza, or you make your steel, or you create your cars. We let them do that. We just do our part of emphasizing it better.
So when you formed your first team, were there any difficulties that you faced, and like how did you overcome that?
Now that's some of the that's probably the one of the most important factors. Uh, so the team that I formed, I think we haven't left anybody out so far. The way it grew was also very organic. So some very nice people joined in, and you know, I'll try to define it in two parts. One part is that the top layer of the organization. How did I create that? And then there's a second level of leadership in the organization. So today I've got, in the top layer there are two people. One is his name is Prasoon, and he looks after our technology. A very capable person from IIT Kanpur again, but 2001 batch, knows the technology inside out. He's our CTO. He joined me at some point in my journey, and firstly his association was he was also evaluating how he wants to do things with us. Then when he joined, he stayed with us. Then Pradeep, another person who's a co-founder, he joined in. And again, I think, the most important thing was we had a great chemistry. It is still there. And we actually like each other. Even if we were not working on this venture, we would probably spend time together. So these three people, we are sort of running it. Then there is a second layer of leaders, and we want them to sort of come closer and become a part of the top layer. But they have right now created the second layer for us, and they are also creating a lot of things for us. So there is a person called Rohit, who is a part of our design team. He looks after that. Then there's a phenomenal person we recently hired, Vinod, and he looks after sales now. So what we are trying to do is we are really investing in a great deal of time in spotting the talent, and we bring them at the second layer of leadership first. And as the time flows, if it works for them, if it works for us, then they sort of naturally transition into a more closer situation. In which case, we make them a independent head of something, and we let them do it, and we truly don't interfere. We are okay with a lot of losses also. Sometimes it happens, when they sort of do things in the beginning, they mess it up. That allows us to finally have a picture where we are not deciding it. They're deciding to stay, and they're deciding to think about the company. They become invested in the company. Lastly, I'll say, because so far we were very profitable, so we never had a like a, let's say, inorganic way of creating teams. So we did not have a team member suggested by an investor. So and then you have to be lucky a little bit. You find complementary talent, and I must tell you, I have been lucky that way to have people like Rasool and Pradeep with me. Because if I had to go and find out somebody like them, I wouldn't find that easily. It's not about me selecting them. It's about them also selecting me.
True.
Some of the friends who were along the way, they sort of did not continue sometimes. They're still good friends, but maybe because of their risk profile, they did not do it. I also consulted Mr. Subrata Bagchi once, when I was really starting it out. He gave me some very good wisdom around it. He also was writing a very good book at that time. And I'll tell you, I read that book a couple of times. Now I probably don't refer to it, but there was a lot of wisdom on how do you create your team.
After the team selection, the very key aspect is the customer. So how long did it take to hunt your first 3 customers, and how long did it take to generate revenue, and how long did it take for you to break even?
Okay, so I think the challenge at that time was very different. First 3 customer, how did I do it? I was just doing mistakes, and I was trying to learn sales. I had no clue about it. So I was reading books, and I was trying to figure out how do I, just the way we do it, like, digital marketing karte hain, fir kuch aur try kiya. But that reading really helped. Also, what in the first 3 customers was talking to some of my friends who were into sales profession per se,
Right.
doing some selling. So that helped me bag my first 3 customers. And when I say first 3 customers, I'm talking about not the small ones, the ones which really gave us large revenues. And I realized that in doing that sales is a very systematic process. You really have to unlearn a lot of things that you have learned.
True.
And if you're not impressionable, if you are someone senior from the industry, as I was, it's really hard for you. Because, sales profession, you need to have a certain type of behavioral capabilities. And when you are in a senior leadership position, your attitudes are very different.
True.
You really have to be a little more flexible. So that was unlearning which happened in the first 3 customers. I'll just tell you, in return to this, I'll tell you a very interesting story which can sort of, which can give you what was really going on at that time. So I was really not getting the customers, and the time was passing by. And I had a small little office. I used to spend a lot of time decorating it. My family used to help me. They started giving me some chores after that. That what, while you are here, why don't you start doing it? I sort of started getting little. What's the right word here? A little uncomfortable. That what, nothing is happening. So what I did at that stage, I learned a little bit from a very close friend, Amardeep. He told me some web marketing. Set up a little marketing ad using my wife's credit card. And she sort of discovered it when sort of a lot of increase went there. And she said, on one hand, of course, you're not working. On the other hand, you're sort of you're also sort of putting my credit card, and now we are losing money on that also. So I said, okay, let me just give it some time. And I said, okay, next 15 days I'll close it, or next 1,000 rupees I'll close it. Luckily, within that period, something clicked.
Oh, wow.
First, I got out of it was $16,000,
Oh,
and that suddenly told me that, you know what, you can be profitable. You will have to put money to get that profitability. We were profitable very, very quickly.
okay.
uh, a small profit, but I was always profitable.
Hmm.
I was never giving out my services free of cost. I was never giving out products कि आप ले लीजिए and pay मत कीजिए.
Hmm.
I was that is the advice that I was following from Dr. Handa and Jayan Krishna, who was my boss.
Hmm.
कि जो free में देते हैं उसकी value नहीं करते हैं लोग.
True.
And I was charging premium. I was charging a lot of money for anything that I was giving, and I was putting a lot of effort to do that also. So profitability का सर problem नहीं आया हमें.
Hmm.
So I think that is one big thing which happened. The other thing was that I was also very focused on large corporates.
Right.
So large corporates have this capability and feeling that they have got an accounts payable department and they want to pay you when
Hmm.
it is due.
True.
Otherwise, it's item. So that was also another reason why we were profitable,
Hmm.
because our monies were never stuck up,
Hmm.
at least in the initial days when the operations were small.
How do you see your work and artificial intelligence working together? Or have you already implemented AI in your workings? So this is my first question. And my second question is in terms of business. Like you work with most of the corporates, and as you have mentioned, the payments are definitely not a concern with the corporates because of the LMS and the HR systems there. But have you thought about doing a PPP model with government and starting some kind of modules for the schools or the government organization per se?
We have a complete R&D team which is under Prasoon, and Prasoon always has been experimenting things along with our partners to think about what's going to come in couple of years down. So AI we had started putting in our systems quite early on, and our vendor in the initial days was IBM, and they had a very good platform of AI which worked for some time, and then we have got our own systems which are also very useful. So we created some products and we launched them also. One of the largest payment banks, they used our system for launching their services in 2 states of India, and more than 1.5 lakh people were supported on that. The purpose of AI in our case was not really to experiment, but to sort of deliver some very specific value for which we could charge. So therefore, our apps were capable of helping a person ask a question in any language, and in return, the app was capable of going back to all the different sources of knowledge. Something which is into structured systems, something which could be in some kind of e-learning systems or whatever else you have. You may have brochures, you may have company information, and then coming back with a very specific standard operating procedure kind of an answer, like, you know, 1 2 3, do these things and you can finish your task. And all of this happens within a second's time. So, you know, there's a lot of AI algorithms which are at play when you're doing something like this. At one level, you're trying to figure out, you know, through natural language understanding what the person is really trying to do. Then you have got to have some kind of a indexable database in the background, and, you know, sort of a lot of voice to text and text to voice capability to figure out
Right.
on the way and pull together the answers. So that we have been doing. And there's a product called Go Perform, which is now in the
Okay.
market, and
Okay.
some of the large corporates are using it. There's a lot of interest from some of the European companies on
And
this. The second
this
part
Go
of your
perform.
question,
So this Go perform is offered by you on
yes,
your platform.
yes,
Okay.
it is
And
a,
and
it is a,
and
yes.
and is the banking sector using it predominantly, or there is any other sector which is using this?
So banking sector is what gave birth to it, I'll say. But you right now, insurance sector is using, also manufacturing is using, and recently we have started giving to educational institutions also, at least one educational institution, which is a very prominent business school in India. Now, to your second question, which is slightly different, unless you have a follow-up on the first one, that was about PPP model and doing
Right.
something with comment.
Right.
So, so, you know, we have a very uh, well-defined strategy right now, and we tend to follow that. The idea for us is to generate a lot of revenue, and the at a premium, really, which means that profit margins are very important.
Right.
While we want to engage with government, but that is the area where we will only do projects when there are upfront revenue possibilities. In our advisory capability, of course, we are helping some government organizations. I will again not name it because it's one of the marquee organization, and the PMO is directly involved in it. But then what we are doing there is trying to make it easy for Indian sellers and buyers to do procurement through government portal. So the point is that we are trying to see what kind of value we can deliver. There we are giving our capability of seeing through the market how you can create a voice of customer, which is at a level where it suits India's uh, uh, dominance and leadership in what it is trying to do. So the government is trying to make it an inclusive sector, and they're trying to make sure that while the industries are really badly hit right now, a lot of opportunity should be for MSME organizations. So we are helping there. We are providing technologies. We are providing a lot of business information. You have to see our position in this sector is very wide, because we are connected to all the things that you can do in the in this area of skilling. So we are not really confined to just the parts of product, but we are also connected with how you can create the content, to how do you do it, to the all the best known organizations which are out there in US, which have got the best technology. So we are also making that product technology available in India. So that is what we are trying to focus on. And I think we're going to continue doing that, because we have some expansion plans which are also in this direction. There's a lot of work which is still to be done. So while that's a great idea, Bhagesh, I understand that that can also have a great impact. I'll just end it by just this question. By you somewhere talked about educational institutions also.
Right.
So I'll tell you that right now we see it as a responsibility more than an opportunity for us. So truly, we are trying to help many government, many educational institutions. Some of them who cannot even pay. So we're
Right.
giving them free platform. We are giving them capability to launch their classes online, and we don't intend to charge them. But you see, because we are profit driven, that goes into our CSR activities.
Right.
So we're really not counting it as a revenue, or we're not even going to charge them ever. So that's what we're trying to do here.
So what are the key takeaways and learnings that you would like to share with today's youth?
But because I keep advising some of them and they're very good friends, what I realize is that uh, I just want them to be to realize that how different India is right now. And we have some senior leaders on the call already. So if you see, there was a time when we were much younger, and at that time California used to look like an innovation hub, and India is looking like that. So there's a lot of technology available to you. There is a lot of access to information available to you. Now I think the most important thing is to not let it go as a waste, and therefore start whatever you want to do, start it early. Because you can see that there is a very big currency you have as a student or as a young person, that if you reach out to any leader, they actually respond to you. When you go out to them as a person who is several years down in the market, you actually look like someone who's a junior industry colleague, so they may not really respond to you. I've seen company heads from IT, from manufacturing, from the who's who of the industry responding to the letters that we used to send them as students, and they used to help us. I think that's the part where I try to request very politely the younger people that beyond socializing with just your age, it's a great possibility if you sort of open up to the industry leaders and try to connect with them. because the biggest thing that will give you a benefit is the network that you can create, which is of a different or various kind. If it is only of your type, then it's not going to be that powerful. If you have got variety in it, like, you know, some industry leaders from outside India, some industry leader within India, some academicians, some even political elements, and, you know, so then you will see that what kind of color it brings to your personality.
So what are your three things which you value the most?
You know, I was not that well planned in doing these things. The kind of plans I had were mostly to sort of to present to, let's say, my family and to my friends, so that they are convinced and they are not really thinking that I'm doing something which is very risky. But more than that, the most important thing for me was to get that courage to sort of because it was very apparent the moment I start something, it will definitely not behave just the way I have planned it. I saw that when I launched something. Before that, I had to resign from Genpact, and you know what? We had formed a team, and there were 3 people in the team, and only I was left as my resignation date was inching onwards. So the courage is the biggest factor here, and I see people having a lot of reasons that they give for not starting their business. They're just not ready. So I think the biggest hurdle is not your plan. It's not about your anything else that you can write on a paper. It's about talking to yourself and getting that courage and killing your excuses.
Correct.
Because there was a very interesting session which once was done by Dr. Handa, and he sort of told in a very graphic way, and we sort of saw it, that, you know, all of us just keep delaying that date of you know, starting it. So when you are a young person in the campus, he used to say oops out. He used to say, don't sit in the placement. That's my way to look at whether you are ready or not. So people will really not do it, even when he handed over some very huge amount of check to them, that, you know what, now you are totally financially covered. Now don't sit in placement and just do your calling. So, you know, it's finally down to your own courage, how you see it. And that's a tough call. And I'm not saying it's a bad thing if your risk profile is a little lower. It's just that that is the only reason why people survive also. So
True.
the madness that you have to create in it, it's less of planning. You know, it's more of madness, really. You insisting that you will continue uh, allows you to continue that far, because you will get so many good reasons, good excuses to come back and
Hmm.
sort of stop your stop your venture
True.
and give it up or sell it off. You know, a lot of ways you can sort of
Correct.
kill it.
And when you graduated and when I graduated, what you are finding it different today, you know, uh, thinking of youth, you know, what they are aspiring, what is your perceptual differences coming, and what will have an impact on India, let's say 5 years, 10 years down the line, based on what people are doing today?
So on one hand, we have to we should think about this, what would be the impact, but we first have to figure out how the youth is feeling about it, is primarily what you're asking. So I'll say
Yeah.
there's this very great uh, person, and he has talked a lot about on this topic, so I'll refer to that. His name is Simon Sinek, and he
Hmm.
has spent a lot of time analyzing the behavior of the youth and whatever. So what I see today in youth, and my own thinking, talking to a few friends, has been that if you look at that model we used to have, Maslow's hierarchy, you remember that?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Yeah.
so you see, so I think the important thing we have to see is that for most of the youth, I'm not talking about all of them, but most of the youth in India, because of the improvements that have happened in the society, the kind of social security has happened, or in 90s, the way software revolution has happened, that many of us, when we were younger, we probably started at a level which was our safety needs, and we were sort of figuring out whether we'll have a safe job, and you know, whether we can earn enough. But our next generation, they are really not starting from that level. That is already taken care of. They are already you know, having enough uh, to uh, to to sort of take care of themselves wherever they are. They do not mostly need to earn that much also, because their families are capable of supporting them. So they start from the third level of Maslow's pyramid, and you really have to look at what those are. So third level is love and belonging and those kind of things, and then self-esteem. So people relate at that level. If you look at a person in my organization, and I interview a lot of people when they're joining in, we realize that the older carrot and stick model doesn't work on them.
Very
They
true.
mostly are going to talk about um, that what is their contribution in this project, and sometimes they will like to leave it. Even according to us, we want them to stay, but they're thinking that they're really not doing enough contribution. So because a person who's starting at a level 3 in Maslow hierarchy is going to behave like that. It may sound strange to us, because you may try to reward them and say, hey, stick on, but they're really not there for that. They're trying to reach the self-esteem level. They're trying to find a meaning in what they're doing it. So if you sort of see from that perspective, you can really relate to them, and I see that that's probably going to be very beneficial for the country as you go forward to your second part of the question. Because you see, when you do something in fear, fear is in a certain way misuse of your creativity. We have spent a lot of time fearing about things in our younger days, which really don't make any sense right now. So
Very true.
therefore, because they haven't spent that time and that creativity on something which is not really going to make any sense, they're spending time on solving problems or worrying about relationships. That's very high on their agenda. So looks like that will change a little bit of India's profile into a very different type of a culture, where people relate to each other much better. People are really not going to find themselves successful if they had an individual success. They will like to have like a collaborative success. Standing out together is very important for the youth, and that's very good for a society, isn't it? I mean, a cohesive society which is helping each other. So I think that is what is going to happen, but we have to got to see what really ends up happening. Because it's future. By definition, it will only play up and manifest, but I'm hopeful about it, looking forward to it in a sense.
Yeah.
Which were the three biggest challenges that you faced during your entrepreneurial journey?
Okay, so these three biggest challenges, the first one, which still is at least one thing we spend a lot of time each week, is the revenue and its relationship to the cost. A lot of data is crunched in trying to figure out whether we are making profit or a loss on project by project basis. So that's one of the big challenges, because a lot of energy goes in it. The second thing is we have a lot of opportunities coming our way, and looks like the bottleneck happens to be the manpower and the quality manpower. So that is the second biggest challenge that we are facing right now. And before I joined the call with you, we were in a round of interviews and hiring, and that will continue all through the week. So that is the second challenge. The third challenge, which has now become significant for us, is the professional way of managing quality. So we are investing a lot of time in setting up processes in place. We are setting up different type of teams and external auditors in place, so that the quality is consistent. It should not just be good, but it should be repeatable. And I can tell you, it's a lot of paperwork, it's a lot of processes, it sort of totally wears you down. The entire organization has to support it. So therefore, these are three major challenges. And if we can sort of manage these three well, then looks like our strategy is going to just play the way we are planning it to.
How do you revive yourself up?
So COVID has sort of affected a little bit, but I have a lot of things that I spend time on.
Yeah.
So I like fencing. Fencing, you understand fencing, that a little bit of sword fight.
Yeah.
Uh, and then I used to represent East Delhi in doing that. And then there's golf,
Yeah.
and I enjoy Netflix. Then
Oh,
I'm also a chess player. I play online.
oh wow.
And uh, so right now golf within my home is happening,
Okay.
and chess is happening, and Netflix is really happening a lot.